The book closed with a soft thud, my fingers lingering on the cover as I stared at the ceiling. My mind buzzed with everything I'd just read. Rudeus Greyrat, what a character. A flawed, broken man at the start, who somehow, through trials, failures, and unwavering determination, carved a place for himself in his world. It wasn't just his magic or his growth that captivated me. It was the journey, the way he stumbled, fell, and rose again. I'd give anything to be like him, I muttered to myself. But as soon as I said it, the irony hit me. What was there to give? My life was a far cry from extraordinary. I was just another orphan, another faceless nobody at a crumbling school. But even so, if I were Rudeus, I wouldn't just stop at being great. I'd go further, become stronger than Orsted, even Laplace. I'd become the strongest in the entire world. The dream lingered, bittersweet, as I glanced at the clock. My heart sank. Oh crap, past 10 already. The caretaker wasn't exactly lenient when it came to curfew. With a resigned sigh, I set the book down, turned off the lamp, and burrowed under my thin blanket. The room was quiet, save for the muffled voices of the other kids and the distant creaks of old pipes. I closed my eyes, the story replaying in my mind like a vivid dream. I wish, my voice was barely a whisper. I wish I could wake up as Rudeus Greyrat. The first thing I felt was warmth. It wasn't the usual dry warmth of my scratchy blanket but something gentler, softer, almost soothing. Light filtered through my eyelids, and when I tried to shift, my body felt strange, small and heavy, like I wasn't in control. I heard voices, muffled and strange, in a language I didn't recognize but somehow knew. My eyes fluttered open, and the world around me swam into focus. A man stood over me, his expression animated, his features sharp but oddly familiar. He spoke again, his words incomprehensible yet carrying an unmistakable tone of excitement. Wait, this can't be. The man leaned closer, grinning broadly. I flinched instinctively, and the sudden movement seemed to startle him. Another face appeared, a woman this time. Her golden hair framed soft features, and her kind eyes radiated warmth as she looked down at me. I turned my head and froze. A maid stood nearby, watching the scene with wary eyes. Her posture was rigid, her expression unreadable. The realization hit me like a bolt of lightning. Paul, Zenith, Lilia. I wasn't just dreaming. I was Rudeus. The days blurred together at first. The realization of my reincarnation was overwhelming, but it didn't take long for reality to sink in, quite literally. I was a baby, a helpless, crying, diaper-soiling infant. The first time I soiled myself, I wanted to crawl into a hole and die, but I couldn't even crawl. Every time my body betrayed me, I was reminded of my new reality. At least Zenith was kind and patient. She handled me with such care, her gentle voice soothing even my most frustrated cries. Paul, on the other hand, what is with this guy and his faces? Every time he leaned in, pulling exaggerated expressions, I couldn't help but cry, not out of fear or discomfort, but because it was genuinely hilarious. His crestfallen reactions only made it funnier. Then there was Lilia. Her quiet demeanor and watchful eyes unnerved me at first. She rarely smiled and often avoided direct contact, as if I were some ticking time bomb. Still, I had plenty of time to think and observe. My tiny body limited what I could do, but I refused to waste time. I began experimenting, trying to sense the mana I knew was within me. The first few attempts ended in failure, or more accurately, unconsciousness. But with each attempt, I learned a little more. And then it happened. One evening, as the house grew quiet, I focused harder than ever before. I felt it, a faint, shimmering presence in the air around me. For a brief moment, I could see the mana. My elation was short-lived. The world spun, and darkness claimed me again. By the third month, I could finally crawl. The sensation of moving independently, however clumsy, was exhilarating. Everything seemed enormous, and the house became a labyrinth of towering furniture and endless corridors. Zenith and Lilia spent much of their time chasing after me. I quickly discovered that hiding under tables and behind curtains turned into an impromptu game of hide-and-seek. Zenith's exasperated laugh every time she found me was worth the scolding that followed. Lilia, surprisingly, began to soften. I'd often crawl to her, tugging at her apron until she picked me up. At first, she seemed unsure, but over time, her stiff demeanor relaxed. She even started smiling. A small, fleeting smile, but one that spoke volumes. I continued my mana training, though progress was slow. Unlike Rudeus in canon, I didn't feel the dramatic bursts of growth. Maybe I don't have the Laplace factor. It was a theory I couldn't confirm, but it explained the discrepancy. A year passed, and I decided it was time to start practicing magic properly. My body felt stronger, and my mana reserves, while not extraordinary, were stable enough to attempt a spell. One afternoon, Lilia found me flipping through a magic book. "Master Rudeus," she said, her tone cautious, "what are you doing with that book?" "Just looking at the pictures," I replied, feigning innocence. She eyed me suspiciously but let it slide, leaving me to my own devices. As soon as she was gone, I placed the book down and focused. I decided to start with Water Ball, a basic spell I knew well from the story. Stretching out my tiny hand, I visualized a droplet of water. I imagined its cool surface, the way it shimmered in light, and the feeling of running water in motion. Mana surged through me, pooling in my palm. A small, glistening orb of water appeared. For a moment, I marveled at the sight, until my vision went black. When I woke, Lilia stood over me, her expression torn between exasperation and amusement. "Next time, young master," she said, "go to the bathroom before you try magic." My face burned with embarrassment, but I didn't let it deter me. Over the next month, I practiced relentlessly, using a vase to contain the water. My stamina grew, and soon, I could cast multiple water balls before feeling the strain. By the time I reached 2 years old, I had begun to prioritize my physical conditioning. Magic was fascinating, but I knew that if I was to follow Rudeus's path and become someone of true power, I needed to train my body just as much as my mind. Every morning before Zenith or Paul woke up, I would sneak into the yard and start my workout. My little arms and legs felt weak, but that didn't stop me. I pushed myself to the limit, doing push-ups until my body screamed, sit-ups until my stomach burned, and running around the house until my legs threatened to give way. Each session left me drenched in sweat, but I welcomed the discomfort. It was the price of becoming stronger. Zenith and Lilia must have noticed the changes. Lilia would bring me a cold towel and a bath after my training, her gentle touch reminding me that I wasn't truly alone in this world. It was odd, but in a strange way, I began to look forward to her care. Her presence was no longer just that of a servant, it was that of someone who genuinely watched over me. As for Zenith, she, too, noticed my dedication, but she never mentioned it directly. She simply smiled warmly every time she saw me practicing, her quiet pride evident in the way she watched from the kitchen window as I ran laps around the yard. I couldn't help but wonder if she saw something in me, a potential she hadn't expected in her new son. But despite all of this, despite the quiet kindness of Zenith, the growing bond with Lilia, and the undeniable warmth of my new life, I still couldn't shake the nagging fear that had settled deep in my chest. What if they abandon me? What if this family, this warmth, is just temporary? The scars of my past life, being left behind in that orphanage, discarded like trash, ran deep. It wasn't just my body that was different in this new life, my heart had changed too. I was cautious, distant, always wondering when the other shoe would drop. It wasn't just a fear of abandonment. It was a fear of loving too much. If I let myself care, if I allowed myself to truly feel like a part of this family, what would happen when it all came crashing down? And so, I kept my distance. I didn't cry for attention like other children did. I didn't seek out affection. I simply stayed in the background, trying to do the right thing without getting too attached. It wasn't healthy, but it was all I knew. One day, I decided to talk to Lilia about it. She was the one who seemed to understand me most, even though she rarely spoke of herself. "Lilia," I murmured as she finished cleaning my room, her movements as graceful as ever. She looked down at me, her expression softening. "Yes, Master Rudeus." I hesitated, unsure of how to phrase my thoughts. "Do you think Zenith loves me?" Lilia's expression didn't falter. Her eyes simply softened, as if she had been expecting the question. "Miss Zenith loves you with all her heart," she replied gently. "She may not always show it the way others do, but her love for you is undeniable. You don't cry much, and you stay to yourself, but I can see it." She would sacrifice herself for you if it meant you would be happy. Her words struck me deeply. I didn't respond immediately, too lost in thought. Could I really let myself believe that? Could I accept the love of someone who wasn't my biological mother? Was it safe to? You're right, I whispered finally. I'm not sure I know how to love back. Lilia didn't answer. She didn't need to. She simply patted my head and returned to her duties. The garden and the first real bond. Later that day, I found Zenith working in the garden, as she always did. The sight of her kneeling beside the small plants, carefully tending to them, was something that had become so familiar to me. She wasn't just gardening. She was nurturing, pouring all her love into those little plants as if they were her children. I felt a sudden impulse. I crawled over to her, feeling the cool earth beneath my hands and knees. She didn't notice me at first, her focus entirely on the task at hand. But as soon as I reached her side, she looked up, and her expression softened with the warmth only a mother's gaze could have. "Rudy," she said, her voice gentle but filled with that same affection I had seen her give the garden. "Would you like to help me with the plants?" I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. She handed me a small watering can, too heavy for my tiny frame, but I gripped it with both hands. Zenith was patient, guiding my movements, helping me tilt the can so the water flowed gently over the soil. For a long while, we worked in silence, the only sound the soft rustling of the leaves in the breeze and the distant hum of birds. When we finished, Zenith turned to me with a smile that made my heart feel lighter. "Thank you, Rudy. You've helped me a lot." Before I could say anything, she pulled me into a tight hug, squeezing me against her chest. The warmth of her embrace was overwhelming, a sensation so foreign to me that I almost froze. I let out a shaky breath, my heart thudding in my chest. It felt so right, but it was also terrifying. She held me like I was precious, like I was a part of her life in a way I hadn't experienced before. For the first time, I didn't resist the urge to let my emotions show. I buried my face in her chest, feeling the gentle rise and fall of her breath, and for just a moment, I allowed myself to feel safe. "Rudy," Zenith murmured, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're my son." I couldn't find the words to respond. I didn't need to. The feeling of belonging, of being wanted, wrapped around me like a warm blanket. Training magic and swordsmanship. At 2.5 years old, my life began to shift again. I was finally ready to start focusing on my magic seriously. But I didn't want to be just a mage. No, I wanted to be something more. Something unique. I wanted to blend the strength of swordsmanship with the power of magic, just like Rudeus had done. The moment I made this decision, I began training harder. I spent hours each day practicing my mana control, trying to master basic spells and push the boundaries of my abilities. But I didn't stop there. After each session, I would sneak in some sword drills, mimicking the movements I had seen Paul practice with the blade. It was exhausting, physically and mentally. But every drop of sweat, every muscle ache, felt like progress. One evening, Lilia came into my room with a damp towel and a glass of water. She handed them to me quietly, her eyes glinting with something that wasn't quite pride but something close to it. "You're doing well, Master Rudeus," she said softly, her voice full of respect. "But remember to rest. Your body is still growing." "I know," I replied, wiping the sweat from my brow. "I'll take a break soon." She didn't argue. Instead, she simply left the room, giving me space to continue my training. But her quiet approval meant more than any words of praise ever could. I was beginning to love them. It had been a few days since the accident with the wall, and my excitement had only grown. The idea of finally meeting Roxy, my soon-to-be tutor, was enough to make my heart race with anticipation. I didn't know exactly when she'd show up, but I couldn't sit still. I was ready to show off my abilities, to prove that even though I was a little kid, I could do more than just play in the dirt. The door opened, and there she was, a blue-haired demon woman. At first, she looked like just a regular stranger, but the more I stared at her, the more I could feel the aura of familiarity. This was Roxy, the teacher I had read so much about in my previous life. She was a character from a world I had studied obsessively. I couldn't help but let out a small, inward sigh of excitement, even though it felt wrong to be this eager. Roxy turned to my parents with a half-annoyed, half-amused expression as they greeted her. "So, where is this prodigy of yours?" she asked, her tone slightly skeptical. I took a deep breath, pushing aside the childlike hesitation that still lingered within me. I had to do this. This was my chance. "I'm right here," I said, stepping forward from behind my parents. Roxy's eyes narrowed as she looked me over, her gaze flicking from my face down to the small body I was currently inhabiting. She didn't look impressed. "A child, huh?" she sighed, clearly thinking I was some overhyped kid with delusions of grandeur. "I'm sure your parents see a little spark of genius and think you're going to be the next great mage, but honestly, I've seen this before. Kids like you always think they can do magic right away." Zenith smiled proudly at me. "Rudy is a very special boy," she said, eyes gleaming. "You'll see." Roxy's skepticism only deepened, but she didn't seem the type to back down from a challenge. She looked me up and down one more time. "All right, kid, show me what you've got." I took a step forward, my heart pounding in my chest. I wasn't nervous about showing her my magic. No, I was nervous about disappointing her. Despite everything, I still felt the weight of my past life, the fear of being discarded, abandoned. But this time, I had a chance to prove myself. I swallowed the lump in my throat and held out my hand. "Okay," I said, my voice quieter than I'd intended. "I'll show you." Roxy raised an eyebrow, her staff still in hand, ready for whatever it was I was about to do. I could see that she didn't expect much from me, and I couldn't blame her. After all, how could a little kid like me do anything impressive? But I knew I could do this. I wasn't just any baby. I was Rudeus Greyrit, at least, in this new body. I closed my eyes and focused, feeling the mana inside me. It wasn't like the grand, explosive magic I had seen in stories. No, this was the basic stuff, the foundation. I envisioned the water, the flow, the delicate movement of it as it filled a sphere. The feeling of it gathering in my palm was familiar, like learning to use a tool. A simple flick of my wrist, and the water ball formed. I opened my eyes and saw the water ball hovering in front of me, perfectly intact. I looked up at Roxy, my lips curling into a small, shy smile. "Here," I said, a little too eager. "It's not much, but..." But Roxy just stared at me, her eyes wide in disbelief. How did you do that?" Her voice was tight, like she couldn't quite understand what had just happened. I couldn't help but puff out my chest a little. "Oh, it's nothing," I said with a sly grin. "It's just incantationless magic. I taught myself." She blinked, clearly not expecting that answer. The staff in her hand trembled slightly as she processed the information. "Incantationless magic," she echoed, disbelief turning into awe. "How the hell did you?" I shrugged nonchalantly, though inside, I felt a rush of pride. "Well, I've been practicing. Thought I'd try something new." Roxy stood frozen for a moment, clearly taken aback. Her usual calm and composed demeanor faltered, and for a brief moment, I saw her begin to question everything she thought she knew about magic. Just then, my mother, Zenith, stepped outside and saw the two of us standing there. The warmth in her smile was unmistakable. "It's time to eat," she called. "Come inside, Rudy, and Roxy, you too. You're part of the family now. Come on in." I looked up at Roxy and saw the slight flush on her cheeks as she adjusted to this new reality. She was still trying to process everything, but a soft smile tugged at her lips as she nodded. "All right," she said, still in a bit of a daze. "I guess I'm part of the family now, huh?" I grinned. "It's going to be fun," I said, though even I was surprised by how calm I sounded. Deep inside, I was still that nervous little boy who had been abandoned by his previous family, but in this moment, with the warmth of Zenith's and Roxy's presence, I felt a new kind of hope. "Master, what are we doing today?" Roxy has been my teacher for about a week now. Since I already know elementary magic, she's been teaching me about the deeper aspects of magic, its workings, the pros and cons of different spells. Today, we'll move on from lectures. I'll start by showing you intermediate magic. Since water magic is my specialty, I'll demonstrate water cannon. If only she knew. Make sure you pay close attention to how this works. Supple spirit of water and princess of streams that flow through the earth, sweep away all things with your hidden inner might. Water cannon. A decent-sized water ball shoots from her wand, traveling at blinding speed for a couple of miles before dispersing. Wow, Master Roxy, you're really skilled with magic. Hearing my compliment, Roxy sports a proud smirk of accomplishment. Alright, now it's your turn. I raise my hand and wait a couple of seconds before releasing the spell. I make it a little slower and smaller to make Roxy's demonstration look better. Dang, mine couldn't compare to yours. You're just too strong for me, Master. Roxy still looks shocked, struggling to grasp that a random kid knows advanced casting. You know, Master, you're going to learn this too, so soon you'll be far ahead of me. Could I even learn this? Roxy mutters quietly to herself, wearing a self-conscious look. Don't worry, Master, you'll learn it. You're the best. If you don't have pride in your abilities, then there's no point in having them. I let my words sink in. Roxy clenches her fist and grits her teeth. You're right, I won't let this shake my confidence. Can we get back to the lesson now? We got really off track. Roxy blushes a bit at her mistake before getting back to teaching. We spend a couple of hours practicing water cannon and its practical applications. Roxy not only teaches me how to cast it but also how to apply it effectively in battle. I'm grateful that Roxy's past as an adventurer gives her practical knowledge that you can't find in books. My deal with Roxy hasn't started yet. I've been brainstorming a fast way for her to learn incantation-less magic. I know it's harder for adults because they're conditioned to think incantation-less magic is almost impossible. I guess I'll have to start tonight. Roxy, tonight come to my room. It's time for my part of the deal. Okay, Rudeus, I'll swing by your room tonight. I walk away from Roxy and head to the backyard. In my past life, I had photographic memory. It wasn't particularly useful then, but it did give me an edge. I'm not a genius or anything, but I'm not exactly clueless either. I watch Paul every day, observing his form when he strikes. I think I have a basic grasp of what Sword God looks like. I haven't seen him use Water God, probably because it's a defensive technique. Even so, after a week out here, I still don't quite get it. I think my footwork is off, and my hand-eye coordination in this body isn't the best. Young Master Rudeus, I see you're practicing the sword. Has Master Paul shown you this? I turn around and see Lilia walking towards me with a cold towel in her hands. No, I've just been watching him and trying to copy. She places the towel on my face, and I take it, wiping the sweat away. I see. What's the problem? You won't just grasp it by watching. You need an instructor. Oh my god, it's a godsend. Lilia knows Water God. Lilia, could you teach me Water God? Father mentioned you trained in it at a dojo. I never knew Master Paul discussed such matters with you. Well, yes, I trained in Water God in my youth, but I'm not sure if I'm fit to teach you. I kneel down, looking up at her with my best puppy dog eyes. Please, Lilia, any instructor is better than none. I'll be a good student. Plus, I could surprise Father when he starts teaching me. Sigh, Master Rudeus, you're quite a handful sometimes. Lilia smiles warmly, her maternal presence comforting. Tomorrow, after your session with Roxy, come straight here. I'll train you for 3 hours every day. I'm strict, so don't be late. Thank you, Lilia, you're the best. I run up to hug her, and she looks a bit flustered before returning the hug. Who knew Lilia would be such a tough teacher? I can't move. My legs are trembling and my arms dare not try to move. My whole body is immobile. Lilia has been working me down to the bone every day. My body is turned into mush. For a woman who hasn't trained in many years, she seriously beats me up bad. Rudeus, you need to get up now. Our 20-minute break is over. Please, Lilia, give me 10 more minutes. My body feels like it's going to explode if I move. Rudeus, there are no excuses. Get up now. We need to continue our practice. Fine. I stand up, my legs still wobbling, and pick up the stone sword I made since I don't have a wooden sword yet. I get into the stance she's literally beaten into me. I have the bruises to testify. Who knew she could be so brutal? You finally got the stance down. Good, you're a quick learner. Now, come at me. I thought Water God was a defensive technique. She doesn't move or make a sound, standing in place, waiting for my sword swing. Man, I'm going to get beat up again. God help me. I take a deep breath and calm my mind. I look at Lilia and see her stance. I notice a couple of openings, but I'm not good nor fast enough to exploit them. I bend my legs, use every single muscle, and take off at inhumane speeds, putting my sword above my head to attack before my body stops abruptly. My sword and whole body are redirected to the left. A perfect block. I go flying, hitting the ground, but my body keeps its momentum until I hit a bush. It's not the first time I've hit this bush, nor will it be the last. Your attack is good, but any water god user could block it. Your intention is way too obvious. If you want to beat a water god user, you have to clear your mind and intentions. Even though your mind was clear, your intentions still laid clear. My vision still spinning, I rub my head. After being blocked like that, she reflected all the force I gave her back onto myself, even though I tried to use the basics of the first form of thunder breathing to go faster. Lilia, you're so strong. I'll never be able to beat you. Give it time, Rudeus. You're only 3. In due time, you'll defeat me easily, without a second thought. I ready myself again, and we go at it for another hour. I keep getting back up and going faster and harder. Pause. Even so, I've barely made any progress. Every attack she blocks perfectly. She said she could feel the intentions of my attack. If I want to one day beat the water god, I'll have to get past this. I'll either have to be really fast or figure out how to use that technique. It would definitely be easier than becoming overwhelmingly fast. Today's practice is over. Be here tomorrow at the same time. If you're late, you know what will happen. I feel the cold glare of Lilia piercing my back, making goosebumps appear on my neck. She's so nice sometimes, but now she's like a drill sergeant. Man, I lay down on my back and spread my limbs out. That was hell, and I have to do this until I beat her. After resting, I go inside the house and head upstairs. I see a cold bath waiting for me. Without hesitation, I take off my clothes and jump in. I hear someone open my door and see my blue-haired teacher walk in. Rudeus, isn't it time for our? She looks at me, I look at her, our eyes locked. She's in her nightgown, while I'm butt naked in the shower. I'm sorry, Rudeus, I'll come later. She begins to leave and opens the door. Wait, stay. It doesn't bother me if you see me like this. We can start our lessons now. She takes a glance back at me, still with an awkward look on her face. Okay, now sit down on my bed. Roxy takes a seat on my bed. Okay, I need to tell you how it works. Incantation-less magic works by controlling your mana itself instead of using incantations to control it. When you use incantations, it uses your mana to make a spell with a set size and speed. When you use it without incantations, you have to control your mana and think of the spell you want to use, setting the size and speed yourself. Roxy looks at me with a sideways look, not seeming to get it. I am not that good at explaining, but all you really have to do is feel your mana first. Try to move it around in your body, close your eyes, and focus on it. Roxy closes her eyes and begins to try to feel her mana. She sits there for 5 minutes. I can't get it. I guess it makes sense. Usually, you need to be a kid to learn this type of magic because it'll be easier. So, I'm hopeless. Roxy looks dejected, thinking it's impossible for her to gain such a valuable skill. No, I didn't say that. All we have to do is break down all your mental barriers and reconstruct how you view casting. Wait, give me a second. I need to put on my clothes. I hop out of the bucket and put on my night clothes that were on my bed. Roxy turns her head, not wanting to peep on my changing. Okay, now close your eyes again and just try to move mana to your hand. Try to feel your mana, look deep within yourself. I wait another 5 minutes until Roxy opens her eyes. I think I felt my mana, just faintly for a bit. But I think I felt it. I grin widely. Roxy, you know what this means, right? One day, you'll be able to silently cast. Realizing what I said is true, Roxy is in disbelief. She doesn't know what to say. I'm so grateful, Rudeus. I don't think I'll ever be able to pay you back for this skill. Don't be like that, Master. You teaching me is enough. Also, don't teach anyone else this type of casting when you learn it. Roxy looks troubled at that. But wouldn't you want the whole world to learn this? It's knowledge that could change the way people cast forever. Yeah, I know, but I want to at least have an advantage for a bit. One day I'll tell the world, but it won't be soon, so please keep this secret. Sure, Rudeus, I'll keep your secret since you were so kind to teach it to someone like me. Thank you, Roxy. She gets up to leave and opens my door. Get some rest, Rudeus, you'll need it. I'm waking you up early tomorrow. Okay, Roxy, good night. She leaves and shuts my door, and I get into bed and lay down. I start manipulating my mana until I pass out. When I had a headache, it felt like I was punched multiple times in the head. I get up and walk downstairs. I see everyone at the table eating. I walk down the stairs and join everyone at breakfast. Good morning, Rudeus. Lilia greets me and pulls out my chair for me to sit down. Thank you, Lilia, and the food looks so good, I'm starving. I sit down and grab a plate, starting to put food on it. So, Rudeus, how's your magic studies been going? Oh, it's going well, Mom. Master Roxy and I have been making good progress. She's been teaching me how magic works and the history behind it. Zenith has a big smile on her face. She's glad that Roxy is the one teaching me. I finish my breakfast and start my magic lessons with Roxy. We spend the whole morning going over magic theory and applying it to real life. We finish, and now I have free time. I want to spend this time working on my magic eye. I turn it on, applying mana to my eyes, and I'm immediately hit with a headache. I can see why Ghislaine keeps an eye patch on. This is unbearable. I can see the mana in the air and the mana in the birds and other wildlife. It's like I'm waking up in a totally different world. My eyes start to water, and I hold my head as the pain becomes too much for my little body to handle. I deactivate my eyes and fall to my knees, holding my head and crying. I feel like I just had a loud bell rung in my ear. After a couple of minutes, I start to feel better but still have a mild headache. I decide to sneak out to the yard for a bit and explore the village, maybe make some friends. I sneakily walk out of my yard, making sure nobody saw me, and when I'm out, I bolt away. Once I see that I'm far enough that I can't see my house, I slow my pace. I've decided to start practicing different types of magic and sword skills. As I'm walking, I see the big tree. Isn't this the tree that Rudeus and Sylphie trained at? I guess this would be a good place to train. I reached the top of the hill and looked around. No one was in sight. I conjured a sword out of earth magic and began infusing it with mana to make it denser and heavier until I could barely hold it. Raising the sword above my head, my arms shook as I swung down. The sword slipped from my grasp, my whole body trembling. I think I made it too heavy. I abandoned sword practice for now and started experimenting with my spells. From what I know, the smaller you make a spell, the more mana it takes. But what if I made a fireball really small and started condensing it with loads of mana? What difference would it make? I formed a normal fireball and began condensing mana into it. Its color started changing, and I stopped when it turned a shade of blue, releasing it into the nearby trees. An explosion followed, not huge, barely enough to destroy a wall. I rubbed my chin in thought, noticing the fire spreading and engulfing 3 trees. Oh shit. I ran down the hill and started throwing water balls at the trees until the fire was extinguished. Rubbing my head, I sighed in relief. Before leaving, I noticed a small footprint behind a tree. Interesting. I walked back up the mountain. Okay, time to test this fireball again. I infused mana into it, turning it blue, and then attempted to make it as small as possible. Pouring all my mana into it, it started shrinking rapidly. I can't stop it. It's sucking my mana. Panic set in as I felt my mana draining rapidly, my body weakening. The fireball kept shrinking until I ran out of mana completely. My head grew light, and I was about to pass out. Releasing the fireball, I saw everything being drawn into a small black sphere. Its power could be felt from afar. It took a moment, but I realized what I had just created. Is that a black hole? Before I could finish, mana exhaustion caused me to black out. When I opened my eyes, I saw the sun. It was midday, around the time I should be training with Lilia. She's going to kill me if I'm late, but I can barely run. My whole body hurts. I stood up, my legs visibly wobbling, and began the slow walk back to the house. So I made a black hole. I guess it makes sense. If you make something smaller and keep making it smaller, it would turn into a black hole. I didn't really understand how it worked. I wasn't that into space in my last life. I was just a high school student interested in engineering. 20 minutes later, I could see my house in the distance. I picked up my speed a bit, still limping. Finally, I can get into bed and lie down. A tear of happiness rolled down my eye. My mana was starting to come back, but it was barely there. That black hole had taken a lot out of me. I felt like I had just run for 3 days without rest. Making it to the front of my house, I rushed inside and found everyone in the living room. The first person to notice me was Roxy. Rudeus. She rushed over and hugged me. I felt her warm, small body pressing against mine. It felt nice. Zenith sprinted toward us. Rudy, I missed you. I saw a tear roll down her cheek as she joined the hug. Rudy, where did you run off to? I looked behind me and saw Paul standing in the doorway, arms crossed. I went out to try and make some friends. I rubbed the back of my head sheepishly after explaining. Paul dropped his arms and gave me a softer look. It's okay. Next time, tell us when you leave. Your mother, Roxy, and even Lilia were worried when they noticed you were gone. I'm sorry, Father. Next time, I'll let you know. I looked down, feeling ashamed that everyone had been worried because of me. It's okay. Rudy, you're safe, and that's all that matters. I saw Zenith wipe tears from her face. We broke the hug, and I started walking to my room, still limping as I made my way upstairs, where a bucket awaited me. Even though I skipped her lessons, she still made me a bath. I undressed and sat in the bucket of water, lost in thought. That black hole I made, it felt weird, the sensation of my mana being sucked in and the fireball collapsing in on itself to create a black hole was unexpected. After washing up and putting on fresh clothes, Roxy walked into my room for our lessons. Roxy, do you know anything about black holes and celestial bodies? Roxy looked at me as if I had grown a second head. Black hole, what's that? I've never heard of such things in my life. I forgot that this world wasn't advanced in astronomy, making it hard to find someone who knew what I was talking about, if anyone did. I guess I can teach you a bit. I'm not really knowledgeable in this subject. Black holes are in space. They are bodies of infinite density that suck in mass at an incredible rate. If you stood next to a black hole, you'd be sucked in and never seen again. They don't reflect or emit light, so they're basically invisible in space. It's an enormous amount of mass compacted into a very small space. I don't really get what you're talking about, or how you know this information, since I've never heard of this black hole thing. Roxy had a puzzled look on her face, disbelieving my knowledge. It's probably my explanation. I'm not really good at teaching or explaining things. I'll never be as good as you, Roxy. Roxy hid her face, blushing slightly at my compliment. Okay, let's see your progress now with voiceless incantation. Getting back on track, I turned my attention to Roxy. I haven't really gotten far. I can faintly sense my mana, but I can't move it. She closed her eyes, and I activated my demon eye briefly to observe her mana. It was my first time seeing Roxy's mana. It was bright, like a vast blue ocean. Her mana reserves were impressive by this world's standards, explaining her ability to cast high-tier magic. Why are you crying, Rudeus? Roxy looked worried. I was just thinking about how I miss TikTok. What's TikTok? Focus on your mana. Roxy closed her eyes again and began to feel her mana. From what I could see, there were faint movements, very small, but at least she was moving it, meaning she would be able to silent cast. Her body was adapting to using mana without incantation. We continued for about 30 minutes before Roxy got up to leave. I'm getting tired. We can continue this tomorrow. I have a big lesson planned. Good night, Rudeus. She left my room, and I sat on my bed, contemplating. I have so much to do. It's been a couple of months since I first tried creating that black hole, and honestly, I've made no progress. The memory of losing control over my mana still haunts me, leaving me hesitant to attempt it again. I'm not ready to risk going gray this early in life. The fear of failure keeps me away, and for now, I'm okay with that. It's not my priority anyway. Lately, I've been focusing on my sword practice under the big tree outside. Every day, I've swung my blade, and the effort is paying off. My movements are faster, sharper, and I feel my reflexes improving with each session. Alongside this, I've been experimenting with my magic eye. Although useful, it strains me far too quickly, so I've kept its use to a minimum. I've also realized someone has been watching me from a distance, a small, green-haired girl. It's Sylphie. This must be the same place Rudeus found her in the original timeline. She keeps her distance, too shy to approach, and bolts whenever she thinks I've noticed her. So far, I haven't seen her being bullied, but I wonder if I should intervene before it starts. Training with Lilia has been another challenge. No matter how much I improve, she always seems to be one step ahead of me. I suspect she secretly enjoys pushing me to my limits, but her warm, motherly smile makes it impossible to stay mad at her. As the day winds down, the sky suddenly turns gray, and rain begins to pour, quickly escalating into a thunderstorm. Great, just what I needed, I mutter, summoning a thin layer of wind magic above me to deflect the raindrops. It works like a shield, keeping me dry as I walk home. But then, I spot her, Sylphie. She's curled up under a tree, trembling and soaked. So, that answers that question, I whisper to myself before walking over to her. She flinches when I approach, instinctively hiding her face. "Hey, are you okay?" I ask, extending a hand toward her. She hesitates but eventually takes it. As I help her to her feet, her hood falls, revealing her green hair and delicate features. "Wow, you're so cute," I blurt out before realizing what I've said. Her cheeks flush, and she looks away, clearly not used to such comments. "Sorry, I didn't mean to, I'm Rudeus Greyrit. I think I know you. You're Sylphiette, right?" Yes, I'm Sylphie," she responds shyly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Well, Sylphie, it's not safe for you out here in this storm. Come back to my house so we can dry you off," I offer, noticing her hesitation. "How are you not wet?" she asks, her voice tinged with curiosity. "Oh, it's just wind magic," I say, pointing above me. "See how the raindrops almost hit me but fly away at the last second?" Her eyes light up with wonder. "Magic? That's amazing." I smile and kneel down. "Hop on my back, I'll carry you. It'll be faster, and you won't get any wetter." Sylphie hesitates but eventually climbs onto my back. I activate the foundation of thunder breathing, focusing my energy, and sprint toward the house at a speed that leaves her clinging tightly to me, clearly unaccustomed to such velocity. When we arrive, Lilia is already waiting at the door with a towel in hand. "Welcome back, Master Rudeus," she greets me, but her eyes shift to Sylphie on my back. The girl pulls her hood up, trying to hide her hair. "It's okay, Lilia, I'll take care of her. Is the bath ready?" "Yes, Master Rudeus. A warm bath is prepared. Your parents are out on an errand in the village." "Perfect. Thanks, Lilia." I carry Sylphie upstairs to my room. "All right, Sylphie, let's get you warmed up. I'll dry you off quickly." Using a combination of fire and wind magic, I gently blow warm air over her clothes and hair, avoiding direct contact. Thank you," she says softly, looking down as her face turns red. "Now, I'll step out so you can take a bath and change," I say, turning away to give her privacy. As she bathes, I sit nearby, reflecting on how easily she's opened up to me. The Sylphie from the original timeline took much longer to warm up. Her shy demeanor is still there, but I sense a stronger bond forming between us already. Later, as we settle down, I decide to test the waters. "Sylphie, do you want to learn magic?" Her face lights up instantly. "Really? Can I?" "Of course. I'll even introduce you to my tutor, Roxy. She's one of the best." Sylphie's excitement quickly turns to doubt. "But, my parents can't afford a tutor." "Don't worry, I'll handle it," I assure her, hatching a plan to guilt Roxy into teaching her for free. The next day, I introduce Sylphie to Roxy during our lesson. "Roxy, this is Sylphie. She's got incredible potential, but her family can't afford lessons. Can you please take her on as your student?" Roxy hesitates, but after a little pleading and some strategic puppy dog eyes, she agrees. Sylphie is ecstatic, and soon, the two of us are learning magic together. Finally, I made it home. It's been such a long day, but a good day. It feels good. I've never had a childhood like this, or at all. My previous life was spent mostly in that building, reading manga and isolating myself. Now, everything feels different. I have friends, goals, and an entire world ahead of me to explore. Moments like these make me feel like I'm truly living this second chance to its fullest. After washing up and eating dinner, I decided to retreat to my room. As I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling, I found myself thinking about the future. Sylphie. She's beginning to trust me more, and her potential with magic is incredible. If I can guide her properly, she'll be one of the strongest mages in the world. It's satisfying to watch her grow. I'll have to keep her close, but I can't let her rely on me too much either. The thought of breathing techniques and pushing my limits also lingers in my mind. If thunder breathing or something similar can work here, it could be a game changer. But clearly, I need to take smaller steps before trying again. Tomorrow is a new day. More lessons, more training, and, undoubtedly, more surprises. With that thought, I let myself drift to sleep.